You are listening to Church Talk with Isaac.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Church Talk with Isaac. If this is your first time listening to this podcast, I'm your host, Isaac Watson, and I just want to say thank you for listening in. All of my supporters, I do this every single episode, but all of my supporters, all of my downloaders and subscribers, thank you so much for taking the time. Literally, Church Talk with Isaac is all around the world. People are listening, people are engaging, people are getting insight, people are being changed. So thank you so much. If you have not, do me a favor, pause doing whatever you're doing, and I want you to take a moment and rate this podcast. If you are an Apple listener, go ahead and rate Church Talk with Isaac. Go ahead and give me that young 5-star. I really do appreciate it. And also, if you can, go ahead and leave a review. Leave me a review. Let me know in what ways have Church Talk with Isaac been a benefit to you. You're listening. Why you listen in week after week, whatever it may be, maybe one or two sentences, or just as you're led. Go ahead and say some things about how this platform has been a blessing to you, and I really appreciate it. It actually gives me something to look forward to. I actually look forward to reading your reviews and knowing how this platform has been a blessing to you. So thank you. And not only does it help me, but it also helps this actual platform. It helps this podcast channel, this podcast show become more visible to people who are looking for shows like this that explores the Bible, that explores Christianity, that explores the church. And the higher the rating, the more visible the show. Can I say that again? Please, please, please. The higher the rating, the more visible the show. The more ratings, the more reviews, the more visible the show will be. So if you really enjoy this, go ahead and please rate it. And also write a review and let me know. Give me a shout out, and I appreciate it. Also, I want to encourage you, before I move forward into today's topic, I want to encourage you to send me in some topics, some things that you may want me to cover, that you may want to hear about, things that you may have questions about, concerns about, things that may have sparked your interest. And I would absolutely love to cover those topics as well as they are related to this platform. All right. Let's go ahead. Let's jump into this. I want to do a topic based off of an email that I received, and I'm going to leave the person nameless, but I do want to read what the individual said, what they asked, what they wanted to know about and wanted clarity on. I could have responded in an email, but I actually wanted to be as thorough as I could. So I actually want to take time and cover this through today's episode. Let's see. I'll begin here. This listener said, I'm currently listening to the podcast on whether you should sow into a prophet. I understand your perspective, but my question is, are you supposed to be receiving prophecies? Should we seek someone to prophesy over us? Personally, I've never had someone prophesy directly over my life. I've heard preachers and pastors give general prophecies from the pulpit, but no one has ever come to me directly. Since this isn't the first podcast on prophecy, I'm wondering if I should be seeking this or if I'm not positioning myself to hear. Am I missing something? And then she also said, how should we as a congregation wade through the general prophecies given across the pulpit? And why aren't those prophecies spoken over the individual or individuals directly? Because it can become confusing if the word given is for you or someone else. And then they conclude, I probably have a few more questions, but I'll leave it here. Thanks for your obedience. Listen, thank you so much for your questions. I actually think that these are really good questions, and you're not the only person with these questions. Many people have questions like these regarding the prophetic. regarding how the prophetic operates, whether we should pursue prophecy, so forth and so on. So what I'm going to do during this episode is I'm going to break down these questions, and I'm going to do my best to try to cover them one by one. And hopefully it gives not only you, the one who sent this message in, but those who are listening, it may give you a greater foundation and greater understanding of how all of these things kind of work. And yes, I've done previous episodes on prophecy, the prophetic. I've done one on bad prophecy versus false prophecy, prophetic ministry versus apostolic ministry. Should we all be able to hear God? So forth and so on. So there are several episodes that I've done throughout the past year where we've dealt with the prophetic. But some of these questions I don't think I've covered. So I do want to take time to cover. Let's go through them one by one. I kind of broke these down into 4 steps or 4 questions. All right. So question number 1, are you supposed to receive prophecies? I'm going to answer that plainly. Yes. Yes, you should be receiving prophecies. All right. Prophecy is beneficial for you. It's beneficial for you to receive prophetic words or prophecies, or having someone speak or sing over your life, maybe even write a prophetic word, however you receive it. I believe that it is very beneficial. 1 Timothy 1:18 says, "This charge I commit to you, son Timothy, according to the prophecies previously made concerning you, that by them you may wage a good warfare." So in other words, prophecy is something that can be used as a weapon. It can be used as something that you use to wage a good warfare. When God speaks over your life, sometimes throughout life, we can have things happen in our life that can be discouraging, that can be distracting, that can lead us astray in certain areas. And sometimes the word of the Lord, when a prophecy is released, when God begins to speak into your life through a man or through a woman, or even things that he may have even confirmed to you directly, it gives you something to continue to strive and to press and to move forward for. It gives you a hope to hold on to. Prophecy is beneficial. When things look opposite to what God said, it's important to go back to what God said and pray and believe and meditate on those prophetic words. So I don't believe that there's anything wrong with receiving prophecies. As believers, you should receive prophecy. Here are some other reasons why you should receive prophecy. 1 Corinthians chapter 14, I believe verse 3, it says, "He who prophesies speaks edification, exhortation, and comfort to men." Prophesies unto edification, exhortation, and comfort. So prophecy, when we deal with edification, it means to build. All right. It comes from, it's where the word edifice actually comes from, the word edification. So prophecy helps to build up your life. So when you receive prophetic words, it actually helps to build up your life in a healthy, positive way. Prophecy also exhorts. Exhortation, it literally means to encourage or to urge you towards righteousness, holiness, or proper alignment. So prophecy, when you receive a prophetic word, it helps to encourage you. It helps to urge you toward proper alignment, proper alignment to the will of God, proper alignment to the plans of God concerning your life, proper alignment to your purpose, to your destiny. So yes. And thirdly, prophecy comforts you. So prophecy comforts you concerning godly living, comforts you concerning your future in Christ, comforts you concerning even your past or future situations. So prophecy is something that I believe should be received by people. And sometimes what I've seen happen is that people have become very critical, and people have become very, what's the word I'm looking for? Suspicious regarding prophetic ministry. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. But I personally believe that prophecy should be normalized within the church context. So I know that, there was some things that were said about never having received a prophecy from anyone specifically, but being in environments where corporate words are going forth. I believe that prophecy should be normalized within the church context, where corporate prophecies are going forward, where there's a freedom for personal prophecy, where people are encouraged to prophesy. And this is one thing we have to look at. If I believe 1 Corinthians chapter 14, verse 1, it says, earnestly desire spiritual gifts, especially that you would prophesy. Another translation says that earnestly covet or covet spiritual gifts, but especially that you would prophesy. And that word covet means to strongly desire. So this is one thing we have to think about when we're dealing with whether or not we are to receive prophecies from people. Think about this. If Paul is admonishing you to covet or to strongly desire prophecy so that the church is strengthened, that would also mean that the church has to be open to receive prophecy. Why would Paul tell a church to earnestly to desire prophesying or to desire to release prophetic words if the recipients are not going to be open to receive those words? I believe the commission to prophesy can also be a commission to receive as well. So the church has to be open to receive prophecy. Now, again, I know that sometimes the prophetic can get a little weird. It can be scary, so forth and so on. So this is what I want to say about that. Yes, we are to be discerning concerning prophecy, but we are not to approach the prophetic with suspicion. Let me say that again. Yes, we are to be discerning regarding prophecy or concerning prophecy, but we're not to approach the prophetic with suspicion. Let me tell you what the difference is. Discernment, when you're discerning the prophetic or whether it's a discerning of spirits or just discerning right from wrong, what discernment does is discernment pulls the best from the prophecy. All right, because every prophecy may not be 100% correct. You know, the Bible says in 1 Corinthians 13 that we know in part and we prophesy in part. So discernment, what it does is it pulls the best from prophecy, but suspicion shuts down the prophetic flow because suspicion creates a distrustful relationship with the prophetic. When you're suspicious about it and you have a negative connotation concerning it and you're critical and you're not sure if you should receive prophecy, you're creating a distrustful relationship with the prophetic. And I believe that the prophetic has always been designed by God to be something that is embraced, something that is that every believer, honestly, I believe should flow in it, meaning that every believer should prophesy. And I believe that prophecy should be made available for every believer. All right. So all of those, honestly, was to answer your first question. Are you supposed to receive prophecies? All right. The second question that was asked is, should we seek someone to prophesy over us? Now, this is connected to the first question, but it's not quite the same because this deals with pursuing as far as I think there can be extremes to it because you have people that I would call prophetic junkies. All right. So this is what I would say to that. This is what I would say to that. You should be open to prophecy. But I would not say that you ought to become a prophetic junkie to the point to where you're always looking for a prophetic word from someone and you're never content with hearing God for yourself. But prophecy within itself should be encouraged. All right. Now, this flows in different ways because, quite honestly, especially if you've never received a prophetic word before, it doesn't mean that you're in a bad church. Please hear me. It doesn't mean that you're in a bad church, but certain churches have strengths, certain churches have weaknesses, and certain churches have their own culture. So if your church culture does not embrace the prophetic, quite honestly, it is going to be less likely that you receive a personal prophetic word or personal prophecy. But if your church has emphasis on having a prophetic culture, it's not likely that personal prophecy will be foreign to you. If your church has an emphasis on prophetic cultures and developing a strong prophetic culture, most likely you would have probably received a prophetic word. Let me give you an example. The church that I oversee apostolically in Park Forest, Illinois is Encounter Worship Center. And when we have new partners or when people join the ministry and they partner with our church, they go through a new partners class, a new partners course where they learn our culture, they learn our vision, so forth and so on. And one of the things we do, every last person that has graduated from our new partners class, we prophesy over each and every one of them. We have prophetic ministers, prophetic teams. My wife and I will prophesy to them Even the children and the babies get prophetic words if families are joining, because God just doesn't want to talk to adults. God has something to say about everyone. Come on. If you're here, if you're born, if you're alive, it's because there's purpose, and God wants to speak to that purpose. So we even prophesy to the children and the babies, and it's the responsibility of the parents to steward the prophetic words over their children that may not necessarily understand what's going on. And the reason why we do that is because it gives them something to fight for. Prophecy does. It gives them something to war with. It gives them something to look forward to. And it also gives them and it also allows them to realize things about themselves concerning what God says about them. All right. So we have a strong emphasis in developing and having a prophetic culture. So no one will be a part of our church and say we've never received a prophetic word, to be quite honest. Now, let me reemphasize. All right, that if that is not the culture of your church, it does not mean that the church is bad, that it's a negative or toxic culture, anything like that. Churches just have different emphases depending on their background, depending on if it's denominational or not, depending on the pastor's experience or the pastor's strengths or weaknesses, whatever it may be. It just so happened that because I'm also a prophet and I'm also prophetic, and I personally have a deep investment in the prophetic and understand the benefits of it, I've made that a normalized part of our church culture. So those are some things to consider. Now, I also want to speak to, I believe it was the second part of the question. Should we seek someone to prophesy over us? And then you begin to ask about corporate prophecy. So let me go ahead and let me say this regarding corporate prophecies. You know what? Let me go back. Because when we're dealing with the actually, this goes to the third question. I'm sorry, I'm rambling a little bit. But the third question, a statement and then question. It says, I've heard preachers and pastors give general prophecies from the pulpit, but no one has ever come to me directly. Since this isn't the first podcast on prophecy, I'm wondering if I should be seeking this or if I'm not positioned myself to hear. Am I missing something? So when we are dealing with corporate prophecies, all right, and even churches that may not necessarily have stronger prophetic cultures, we have to look at the fact that not everyone has the same measure, as meaning that their jurisdiction or their graces are not the same. Their interests, what God has called them to, that's what I mean by grace in this instance, what God has called them to, what God has anointed them for or graced them to do is not the same. Everyone does not have the same revelation or knowledge concerning the prophetic. So actually some pastors, some leaders, some of them are suspicious, just like I talked about earlier. Some of them are suspicious about the prophetic. And it may be for some reasons that may be valid. Some of them may have had bad experiences with the prophetic. Some of them may be unlearned concerning it, untrained when dealing with the prophetic. Some of them may be simply insecure or may even just simply be afraid of the prophetic because it is a spiritual technology. It is a spiritual realm that we operate in. So for some of these reasons, and there are other reasons as well, there are some leaders in churches that just don't deal with the prophetic. Now, if you feel like you need more of the prophetic in your life, that doesn't necessarily mean you have to leave your church. There are other resources that you can go to. There are people that are trusted that host events, that may do webinars or teachings on the prophetic, that may activate or train on the prophetic, and it doesn't require you to leave your church. And I want to say this, everybody's not trustworthy or those things. So a lot of these things are worth investigating, looking into and discerning. All right. Now, when you're dealing with corporate prophecy versus personal prophecy, let me say this. There's absolutely nothing wrong with corporate prophecies. All right. There's absolutely nothing wrong with corporate prophecies. Corporate prophecy has its place. It's beneficial. I believe that it's beneficial when God wants to speak. Sometimes God speaks to individuals, but there are other times when God speaks over people groups. God may want to speak to the congregation. He may want to speak to all men in the congregation, all women, all children in the congregation. There were times where in most times in the Old Testament, when prophecies were released, they were released over entire nations, the nation of Israel, or wherever the prophetic word was released. So we see corporate prophecy as being something that is scriptural, is biblical, both in the Old and in the New Testament, in the New Covenant. So I do believe in the power of corporate prophecy. There's nothing wrong with it. It has its place. Now, this is the thing. If a corporate prophecy is released over you or over a congregation, I know you said sometimes we don't know what to receive, what's for us and what's not. This is how I would probably encourage you to kind of measure that, is if a prophecy, if a corporate prophecy is released, I would say, and look this up, apply 1 Thessalonians 5:20 and 21 to that. All right. And this is what it says. Do not despise prophecies. Test all things. Hold fast to what's good. All right. So in other words, when corporate prophecies are going forth, and this can apply to personal prophecies too, but particularly when corporate prophecies are going forth, this is ultimately saying don't despise prophecy when it's going forth. All right. Don't automatically just reject it. All right. Don't despise it. Test it, discern it, and hold fast to what's good. Hold fast to what's good that relates to you. So in other words, discern and receive what applies to you. If what's released, if some of it doesn't apply to you, you do not have to receive it for yourself. Let me say that again. If something is being released and it does not apply to you, if some of it applies to you, receive what applies to you. If some of it does not apply to you, you do not have to receive it for yourself. It may be for someone else in the congregation, and that's absolutely okay. That's absolutely fine. So that's a part of holding on to what's good, letting go of what's not good. All right. So I really do hope that I was able to answer some of your questions. And honestly, I know the individual personally who sent the inbox. We've been knowing each other since the 8th grade, actually. And I think it's absolutely phenomenal that this individual has been pursuing and even has questions regarding the prophetic. Those are good signs that God is wanting to move prophetically in your life in a greater way. And just not from the aspect of you receiving it, but also from the aspect of you giving it. In all of the admonitions regarding the prophetic from the Apostle Paul and from other writers, there was always an admonition to desire to prophesy, to prophesy. And I want to encourage you, read through 1 Corinthians chapter 12 through chapter 14. It gives a beautiful discourse on the gifts of God, the gifts of the Spirit, the manifestation of the Spirit, and it goes heavily into prophecy. And some of the things that you hear are eagerly desire to prophesy. One who prophesies edifies the body. When you prophesy, you speak edification, exhortation, and comfort to men. Let them prophesy. Each one can prophesy one by one, that all may be encouraged and all may be edified. So all of the admonition deals with the idea that God desires for you to prophesy. If you're a believer, if you're in the church, God desires for you to prophesy, because prophecy benefits other people. It benefits and it encourages, it exhorts, and it comforts the people that you engage with every single day, whether they are saved, whether they're not saved, whether they are in church, whether they're not in church. It is a benefit that people will become aware of the voice of God, what God has said about them, and even to their purpose, that they are not living a life that has no purpose, but that they do live a life of purpose, and that God has something to say about it. So I absolutely love that. So I encourage you, be open to it. Be open to the prophetic. Be open to allowing God to speak to you through your relationship with him, where you'll begin to hear him and you begin to release what he says to other people. And it may not start very strong right away. It may be small things, small inclinations, but I want to encourage you, just keep pressing into that, and also be open to receive prophecy. Maybe get around some ministries or churches, not necessarily leave your church per se, but maybe get around some ministries and churches where the prophetic is there's stronger emphasis, where there's a healthy prophetic culture. And one thing that I've learned through my personal experience is that even regarding the prophetic, there are things that you can get out of books. There are things that you can get out of teachings. But prophetic cultures are typically more caught than they are taught. They're more caught than they are taught, meaning you can get in an environment, a prophetic environment, as an example, and the prophetic grace from that environment. You can actually receive impartation from those types of environments, to where it actually makes you more aware of the prophetic, and it actually strengthens the prophetic grace in your life. So I hope that helped. I hope I answered the majority of your questions, and I thank you for sending it in. And also to our listeners, the rest of our listeners, send me some stuff. I would love to address it. I would love to speak to it, and hopefully it's a benefit to you. So again, go ahead and rate Church Talk with Isaac. Go ahead and subscribe to Church Talk with Isaac, and give me some of your feedback. I love y'all. I pray y'all have a great, 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 great week, and I will talk to you all soon. Until then, be blessed.
Thank you for listening to Church Talk with Isaac. If you enjoy our content and benefit from this podcast, do me a favor and subscribe, leave a review, and share with your friends, family, and colleagues. I'm also on all social media platforms and would love to connect with you. You can also partner with us by visiting isaacwatsonministries.com and clicking donate. Your partnership helps us to get the message of Jesus through Isaac Watson Ministries to the world. Talk to you soon.